Are you recording? Mike North here from ReAllocate. Today we're going to go through some tips on how to shoot a good video. These are some things I learned on my Discovery Show Prototype This. I'm here with my senior storyteller, Jeff Deal, behind the camera. Hey Jeff. And we're going to go over some basic elements. First we're going to talk about gear, talk about elements such as lighting and audio and stabilization. But then we're going to go into actual storytelling. What are the key elements to tell a very compelling story? When you're indoors, try to stand by a window. There's a lot of natural light that comes in. But you have other options. Get something like this, white balanced light bulbs. Make sure and get your light levels up. And make sure that the light is facing you, not behind you. Backlighting, bad. One thing I love is this portable little LED system. If you do need to be in direct sunlight, try not to put the light right in someone's face directly on. First of all, it hurts. And also, you really get squinty. You don't want that. But it's also a really harsh light on the face. Try to put it at about a 45-degree angle. You see the harsh shadows on my face? You can do something you call fill, or fill them in. Just use something white to bounce some light in there. And really, don't get your shadow on the person. If you can't hear what someone's saying, what's the point? And it's really distracting for someone when there's a lot of noise around. So on Prototype This, we always had to wait for airplanes, buses, fire engines to go by. Make sure you have clean audio. Most cameras have built-in audio, but it usually sucks. So if you can, try to get a shotgun microphone. This is a lot better, it's directional. And if you're outside, make sure and wear your windsock. The reason my audio sounds so good is I'm wearing this wireless lav. I can walk around, wear this anywhere, and you're gonna hear me. Here's one way to stabilize. Jeff's using a monopod. It's pretty slick. You can pick it up, you can move it around, and it's very stable. He's a man of action with that thing. Of course, there's the good old-fashioned tripod. While we're at it, let me talk about using your phone. Don't hold it out like this. It shakes. I like to hold with two hands, try to keep it really stable. I walk my elbows down, and you can do smooth tracking shots. A little trick, oftentimes when I'm shooting, I'm in groups, so I'll just find a buddy, and I'll use his shoulder to stabilize. Generally, these people are pretty stable, except in his case. So, we're going to go through a list of shooting tips here. Interviews. They're going to be the backbone of your story. So right now we're doing something that's called down the barrel, or looking into the lens. I'm looking right at you. And now, if you watch TV, that's not always common. You'll notice they're looking off camera. That's because a producer's there actually interviewing them. And you see, it's not as intimidating when I'm talking to someone over there as when I'm looking right at them. So be aware of it and play around with it. When you frame someone up, you want to make sure that you're not putting my nose right in the middle of the frame, because then I got a lot of room above my head and below, and it just looks weird. So you want to make sure that you kind of cut off the headroom, get some nice head and shoulders. Now let's dive into really telling your story. Something that's often called the narrative arc. Your narrative arc really starts with, let's call it the setup. Your setup are things like, what's the setting? Who are the people? So going into like their biographies. What are they expecting? What are they aspiring to in this? So those are like your expectations, aspirations. Then you kind of get into the middle portion here. This is what we'll call the narration. Telling the story. How do you get from the start to the finish, and what happens? And one integral component to this are the interviews. So interviews are where you sit down with your stars and you understand what they're doing, how they're feeling, and what's going on. And this really forms the backbone of your story. And now, when you edit together, keep in mind that these interviews aren't just the person in front of the camera. This is the audio, this is the storytelling, this is the narration that's going on in the background. One good interview can tell the entire story. In here, get a lot of B-roll. And what's B-roll of? the process. People doing things, hands moving, cars going by. This stuff is visually stimulating and will really engage your audience. And finally, what we need to do is you need to get to the conclusion, or I like to call it the payoff. Did your protagonist fail or succeed? What did they learn? So this is like lessons learned, outcome. How did a person change through this process? What changed and what did they feel? So impact, and that's what's so important in our field anyway, to show the impact of our work. You're really just trying to connect with your audience, so never forget that. Never forget that you're trying to tell the story of this person, and you're really trying to put the audience in their shoes. So, you know what? At the end of the day, make sure you let go, you have some fun, and use a little bit of creativity.